Good morning, this is Nicole Ringgold. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to fabricate butterfly wings. Mine will be turned into a custom order pendant, but these make lovely earrings by themselves. So I'm just going to be showing you the wings today. You'll need to have a 3x3 inch sterling silver 22 gauge sheet. Cut the gauge into 4 equal pieces, and then you'll use rubber cement. Make sure it's not too thick of a layer. Spread it onto one, and then glue 2 of the pieces of sheet together. While that's drying, you can print out or trace a whatever kind of butterfly. I'm choosing a monarch butterfly. Print that out, and then you'll glue, again, not using too thick of a layer of the rubber cement. You'll glue that to the top sheet. If you use too much rubber cement, it's going to take forever for it to dry, and everything is going to slip all over the place. Once the glue has dried, you'll take a twist drill in your flex shaft or Dremel, and you will drill through all of the spaces that you're eventually going to saw out. So everything that is negative space, drill into that. And here I'm using a 2/0 blade, and I'm threading it into each of the holes and one by one sawing out the details of the wings. Make sure that your blade is nice and tight because, of course, a loose blade is going to make sawing out the details almost impossible. Be sure to wax or lubricate your blade about every inch. Like I said in my last video, relax your hand around your saw blade. You want to treat it like it's a bird, and you don't want to choke and kill your bird. Anchor your silver by placing your fingers as close to the saw blade as possible. Of course, you don't want to saw through your finger. Once the inside details are complete, saw all the way around the outside of the wings. And then pull them apart, and you have 2 matching wings. This is an awesome sawing exercise, and you may choose to stop here. You could thread through ear wires and call it good. Either way, you will want to rub off or peel off the paper and glue. And then here is an annealing flame. I'm going to the normal soldering temperature and then adding propane. A nice soft flame, and heating the metal until when I pull it away, the metal is black. Toss them in the pickle. If you choose to move forward, then while they're in the pickle, in the meantime, you can anneal the second 2 sheets of silver that were set aside. Again, you're going to this normal temperature with your torch, adding propane, and then heating the sheet until when you pull away, the sheet looks black or dark. And then you'll toss those in the pickle. And while those are in the pickle, you'll pull out the wings that you sawed out, and you're going to flux them. I use Mighty Flux, My T Flux, and I coat everything that my torch touches. Mighty Flux is an excellent liquid flux that helps prevent fire scale. Given that these are relatively delicate, you're not going to want too much propane, and then you'll add your oxygen. And so then I'm going to take, you can see all of the easy solder on my platform. I am going to pick easy solder to the wings, and I'm putting it, first of all, I can just place it, ball it, transfer it from my pick in a ball form from the platform to the wing. And then once I have placed enough solder that I feel will be sufficient, I'm going to come back and sweat all of those pieces of solder. And sweating means that they're puddled. So they're not balled, they're puddled. If they remain balls, it just means that you're not heating your mass sufficiently. And if your mass turns black before your solder puddles, that means that you probably have too much oxygen in your torch. Too much oxygen burns off the flux before your solder has a chance to flow. By sweating solder in this way, your solder, you don't have to deal with solder placement after this, and it won't puddle in between the beautiful details that you have sawn out. It won't puddle between them when you solder this to the sheet below. You don't want to overdo it with your solder, but you do want to put enough in random places all over your wing to be sure that it flows up and down each of the fine lines that you have sawn out. And once you've transferred enough solder to the wing, then you're going to go back and make sure that each one is puddled. I know it's tedious, but you're going to do this on the other side, the other wing as well. Then you'll throw both of those in the pickle. I use this really nifty Tightquad soldering platform from Lion Punch Forge. It's awesome because then I can heat from below. I'm using the Mighty Flux. I'm fluxing the top and the bottom of the base sheet, and then I'm fluxing the top of the wings. You don't have to flux underneath. I'm knocking off flux because you don't want it to be too much, because too much flux can function like dirt and can then interrupt your solder flow. Position the wing exactly how you want it, and be sure, of course, that it's not hanging off the base sheet. From here, I'm going to be heating primarily from below, so you'll see my torch as I'm rotating. I'm focused below so that I'm drawing the solder. Solder follows heat, so I'm drawing the solder, coaxing it down to the bottom sheet, to the mass, as I'm heating. And I'm using my pick to be sure that each spot is touching. In case you're wondering, that pick also is from Lion Punch Forge. It's titanium and the best one I've ever owned. You might notice the yellow, that means solder flow point, just to note. Then you'll saw out the outline of each of the wings. It's your choice. You can either saw flush up against the upper wing, the one that was previously sawed, or you can leave a tiny bit of a frame, which is also nice. If you choose to go with the flush look, this is a carbide cone burr, and I use this to shave down the sides of the wings so that they are completely flush. Be sure to wipe off your surface before you do this because you can save the silver dust for future projects. You can also texture inside the details of the wings, and so here these are a set of cross-cut cylinder burrs, and basically I go through and scribble in all sorts of directions, back and forth, again, different directions, and this makes it so that when you do your finishing work, those inside elements really are highlighted. After that, I use a black silicone disc, and this I use to basically to sand down or to slightly polish any rough edges. I go along the outside of the wings and across the top of the saw lines to make sure that nothing is pokey or pointing. I like to scratch up my surface just slightly these are unmounted, well, you mount them, fiber wheels, and they're coarse. And again, I go in all sorts of different directions, and then that makes it so that my silver absorbs the liver of sulfur more thoroughly. You can turn these into a necklace, add ear wires, whatever you choose. I would polish up with a sunburst radial disc and maybe some rouge, wash with soap and water, and call it good. As always, feel free to comment or leave questions below, and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you. Enjoy!